This is All India Radio. We now present a weekly roundup of the key events of the G20 this week during December 19 to 25, 2022 under India's presidency.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Gearing up to meet the challenges of health finance in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic prevention, preparedness and response and urban development issues under U20 topped the agenda this week for G20 under India's presidency. The week began on a positive note as Google's India-born CEO Sundar Pichai called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday, December 19th. He extended support to India's G20 presidency for an open and connected internet that works for all. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said it's important that the world continues to work together to leverage technology for human prosperity and sustainable development.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
The views expressed by G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant in an article titled The Path Ahead, India and G20 in Mann Ki Baat booklet got a lot of traction. He reiterated that India's G20 presidency will be inclusive, ambitious, decisive and action-oriented, and the theme of One Earth, One Family, One Future highlights the need for collective action and unified goals. Mr. Kant wrote that the presidency of G20, a group that accounts for 85% of world's GDP, has always been a position of great honor and greater responsibility. And India will look to emerge as a bridge between the developed and developing nations for enhanced cooperation. The G20 Sherpa emphasized that mission life or the lifestyle for environment, financing for sustainable development goals, green energy transitions, food security and ensuring reliable supply chains for food and energy along with digital transformation will be India's key priority areas in the presidency of G20.
Our objective is to be the voice of the global south, and we will try and galvanize consensus for a green development pact which we will work on. So our priorities are accelerating progress on achieving the SDG through collective actions here, lifestyle for environment, data for development. And here we'll display the cultural heritage, traditions, craft, dance forms and cuisines, and we'll be highlighting India's booming startup landscape here.
He added that a new work stream on disaster risk reduction (DRR) has been established under India's presidency. The group will work towards achieving disaster risk reduction goals and further enhance global preparedness against disaster. These include building a resilient infrastructure. The Member Secretary NDMA, Mr. Kamal Kishore, shared how the agenda for disaster risk reduction fits into the G20 framework for a secure tomorrow.
Under the G20 presidency that we are holding now on disaster risk reduction, one of the key priorities is around financing. And we can do that with some credibility because at home, India is one of the few countries that have dedicated financing for disaster risk reduction of this magnitude. If we are serious about making the paradigm shift from relief to risk reduction, then that paradigm shift has to be reflected in how we put money.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
The first meeting of the Joint Finance and Health Task Force JFHTF under India's G20 presidency was held in virtual mode on Tuesday, December 20. The participants were the finance and health representatives from G20 and invited nations as well as international organizations. Italy and Indonesia co-chaired the meeting. The task force was set up last year at the G20 summit in Rome to exchange experiences and best practices and coordinate between finance and health ministries in the wake of pandemic. The idea was to promote collective action, assess and address health emergencies with cross-border impact. Former Indian Ambassador Anil Wadhwa outlined the role and responsibility of the Joint Finance and Health Task Force.
There was a need to come up with some collaborative efforts to ensure that there's equitable access to safe and affordable, quality effective vaccines also personal protective equipment, particularly in low and middle income countries. There was also an effect on the resilience of supply chains and vaccine distribution and administration. So the leaders at that point decided that whatever has to be done in this regard has to be anchored in the country's needs and context, and also recognizing the urgent need to act collectively to address the cross-border nature of health emergencies. Therefore, the work of this G20 informal group of finance and experts was in focus, and this task force was aimed at enhancing dialogue and also global cooperation on issues relating to the pandemic, promoting the exchange of experiences and best practices, and developing some coordination arrangements between finance and health ministries of countries.
The participants discussed ways and means to continue the collaboration between finance and health ministries for pandemic prevention, preparedness and response. The task force secretariat worked with the Indian Presidency and co-chairs Italy and Indonesia to draft the work plan for next year and beyond. It was designed around the Indian Presidency's global health priorities for 2023. The work plan was presented for adoption during the meeting. The members expressed commitment for strengthening global health architecture for pandemic prevention, preparedness and response. They would be working with the Secretariat and the co-chairs on achieving the deliverables for the next year. Chairman of the National Technical Advisory Group on Immunization, Dr. N.K. Arora said the funding provisions to tackle the challenges of pandemic under the aegis of G20 needs to be utilized effectively. He cited how India upscaled the development of N95 masks and subsequently the COVID-19 vaccine and served as a pharmacy of the world.
Not only $10.5 billion are required, I think value for money is also absolutely important. And I think a country like India, which basically believes in every rupee or dollar which is used, has to give maximum return on that. And I think our vaccine industry recently has shown that how a very effective vaccine can be available to our people at very affordable price not only to the recipient but to the governments, because ultimately these are societal goods. Same is true for diagnostics, therapeutics, equipment which occurred. So I would say that India has a very important leadership role and also share its experience, the how we have utilized every bit of resource available to us to maximize the output and the efficiency with which we can use these resources.
India's agenda of One Earth, One Health approach found echoes among the participating members. The advisor of the World Health Network, Dr. Sunil Raina, underlined the importance of surveillance networks and systems to prevent future pandemics.
This pandemic has thrown up us with many challenges. Every country has taken up to this pandemic in its own way. We didn't have a centralized system of approaching the pandemic, and for that WHO was probably found wanting in that, in helping countries develop strategies which could be uniformly applied across the world. So we had the lower and middle income countries which couldn't get the vaccines, or they were not prepared enough for this pandemic. Or we had other countries who were much prepared, had the vaccines as well. So in that sense, when India thinks of, or when India talks of that, there has to be a centralized agency, and WHO has been in that role for a long period of time now. So they are quite right, because of the fact that then we will be able to have a system which is more equitable in its outreach. And at this point in time, we may be very wary of that fact, that we may not have a very equitable approach as far as delivery of health systems or healthcare is concerned. So with WHO taking the lead, we are pretty much sure of the fact that this fund, which will be a part of PPR, will be utilized in a way which is more uniformly distributed across the world.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
As the deliberations on the finance track continued, India's Chief Coordinator Harshvardhan Shringla met with the representatives from Japan, Sweden and India. The discussions were focused on enhancing collaborations in priority sectors like health, education and digital transformation.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
The issues pertaining to urban development and how the cities from G20 countries can take a leaf out of the successful models have been an integral part of the G20 deliberations. In keeping with this mandate, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs has been organizing the Urban 20 event or U20. The event started on December 1 and will go on till November 30th next year. Urban 20 or U20 is one of the engagement groups of G20 which provides a platform for cities from G20 nations to discuss important issues of urban development. These include climate change, social inclusion, sustainable mobility, affordable housing and financing of urban infrastructure and propose collective solutions. As part of the U20 event, Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel unveiled the logo, website and social media handles of Urban 20 on December 19 in Ahmedabad. Union Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Singh Puri joined the event virtually. He said Urban 20 is a part of city diplomacy as cities are the powerhouse that drives global economic growth. The minister outlined how India has developed its urban infrastructure.
India is rapidly urbanizing with the likelihood of it adding a population more than the size of the entire United States to its urban areas in the next 2 decades or so. Urban development has been a top priority for the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji. Since 2014, we have designed and implemented various missions and schemes covering water, sanitation, housing, development of smart cities, urban transport, etc. It is only fitting that this year India will be hosting this initiative. I see the U20 as a great opportunity for global peer learning and also to showcase the pioneering work being done in Indian cities.
Under the G20 Presidency of India, Ahmedabad, a UNESCO World Heritage City, will host the U20 cycle. Along with the Climate 40 or the C40 and United Cities and Local Governments UCLG, the two international non-governmental advocacy groups on urban issues, Ahmedabad will organize a host of events. These include the first Sherpa meeting of the Urban 20 on February 9 and 10, thematic discussions and side events on urban development issues. These events will lead to the U20 Mayors Summit in July 2023.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
The year 2023 has been designated as the International Year of Millets to showcase the agricultural importance and nutritional values. It coincides with India hosting G20 under its presidency. In order to raise awareness about the importance of millets, Prime Minister Narendra Modi hosted a lunch for MPs on December 20th in Parliament. He urged that the International Year of Millets should be a mass movement. Briefing media after the meeting, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Prahlad Joshi quoted Prime Minister saying that the emphasis should be on two aspects. First, promotion of an ongoing nutrition campaign through millets, and second, food items made from millets can be served to the guests who would attend the G20 meetings and events so that they can understand the importance of the millets.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
Amidst recent surge in the COVID-19 cases in China, the Ministry of External Affairs said that India is keeping a close watch on the situation. At a weekly briefing on December 22nd, the MEA spokesperson Arindam Bagchi said India's objective is to hold G20 meetings in a physical format. In response to a query if the meetings could be held in a virtual format, he said that whether, as and when, and if the plans or the guidelines have to change, it will be made known. India has planned more than 200 meetings for G20 across the country and some have already taken place in the month of December.
There are more than 200 odd meetings that we have planned, some of them already taken place during December. Our expectation and our objective is to have these meetings in physical format.
The week ended on a somber note as G20 delegates relished the warmth of Indian hospitality and gear up for further negotiations to see to it that G20 under India's presidency delivers the key message of collective action for a universal good.
G20 India 2023. One Earth, one family, one future.
वसुधैव